Hi everybody and welcome back to Political Excess. Today let's do another deep dive into a midterm election, and this time let's take a look at the U.S. Senate election in Indiana. I realize it's not expected to be competitive, but you might be from Indiana and you want to know a little bit more about what's going on. So let's jump into it anyway and start on Ballotpedia and get some background on this race. That Senate seat is currently held by Republican Todd Young. He's running for re-election to a second term. 6 years ago, he won by close to 10%, and prior to serving in the U.S. Senate, he did spend some time in the U.S. House. His opponent is Thomas McDermott Jr. McDermott is a longtime mayor of the city of Hammond, Indiana, so he is the Democratic nominee, and we can take a look at their primaries, but there's not much to talk about. Both of them were unopposed and received 100% of the vote. If you compare raw vote totals, the Democrats got about 148,000 and the Republicans got 353,000. So that is better than a 2-to-1 ratio in an uncontested primary. And like with many of these U.S. Senate races, there's also a Libertarian candidate who will be on the ballot. So we can go down here and take a look at campaign finance. And given this is a low-profile race, there's not as much money flowing in. So McDermott has very little cash on hand. Young, he's got several million, but he probably doesn't even think he really needs it. Down here we can see how this race is rated, and all three sites, Cook, Inside Elections, and Sabato, they all have it at safe or solid Republican. That is also my rating. I think this should be a safe, over a 10-point margin for Todd Young. Could it get under 10? Yeah, it's possible it gets down to 8 or 9. It's probably a safe bet to assume 11 to 13 points. I don't think it'll be much higher than 15 points. But this race is off pretty much everybody's radar in terms of competitiveness. So for some additional beneficial context, we can go down here and take a look at the county voting trends on a presidential level. And this shows that 61.7% of the population lives in 82 counties that are solid Republican. And that is defined on Ballotpedia as having voted for the Republican candidate for U.S. president in the last 3 election cycles. On the other end, we have 27.8% of the population that lives in 4 counties that voted for the Democrat in the last 3 presidential cycles. There's an additional 7.7% that is trending toward the Republican, and those are 5 counties that voted for Romney in 2012, but switched over to Trump and stuck with Trump 2 years ago. And there's 1 county that voted for Obama, Trump the first time, but switched to Biden in 2020. So if we go down here and take a look at the county map, there are a lot of red counties, and many of these are deep red. Many voted for Donald Trump last time by over 70%, in some cases well over 70%. Those are scattered all around the state. The Democrats' strength is in Marion County. That's where Indianapolis is. That's where a ton of the population lives. And if you look at those trends, it has shifted toward the left, not dramatically, but by a few points. Above that is Hamilton County. That has a lot of the Indianapolis suburbs that had been traditionally Republican, but as you can see, 2 years ago, that has shifted toward the left and went for Donald Trump by a reduced margin of only 7 points. The Democrats also historically do well in Northwest Indiana. That has some of the outskirts of Chicago, but even if you look at Lake County here, that has actually shifted toward the right. It's still solidly with the Democrats. That has not followed the trend of other blue counties and gotten more Democratic. Another county to point out here is Vigo County. If you follow politics and care about bellwethers, Vigo is one of the counties that voted correctly and thus predicted the presidential winner going back many decades until that streak finally ended last time, where it voted for Trump, but Biden ended up winning. And that is one of those counties that did narrowly go for Obama back in 2012, but as you can see, it did lurch to the right. And Donald Trump carried that comfortably. So let's move on to YouTube and see what they've got on their channels. Todd Young does have his official Senate channel. I believe this is his campaign channel. And there's not a whole lot on here. He's got some clips from some events he's been to, mostly from earlier in the year. I would assume he's going to get at least 1 or 2 videos about his current campaign on here. But as of now, it appears he's hanging back and probably thinks he doesn't have to do much. If we switch over to McDermott's channel, he doesn't have much on here either. He's got 3 campaign-style ads from a couple of months ago. I don't think he thinks he has a great chance to win this, but you could also take a look at their official campaign websites if you'd like. Here's Todd Young for U.S. Senate. You can see where he says he stands on the issues. Take a look at his track record, endorsements, etc. And here is Thomas McDermott's website. I'm not sure if that is his official campaign slogan. It seems a little unusual to be that crass for people just visiting your campaign site. But I would guess he's trying to really convey more of a relatable blue-collar type of appeal, because that's what he has to do to be competitive in Indiana. And how about debates? Well, there actually is one scheduled for October 16th. So that is great to see. I wouldn't want to see Todd Young not debating just because he's favored. It'd be nice to get more than one debate, but it seems like the single debate these days is about all we could ask for. So let's switch over to Wikipedia, and here we could take a look at their endorsements. And here Todd Young, he has a ton of them. Most of these are elected officials from Indiana. And down here, McDermott, his endorsements are pretty sparse, but he does have a few of them here if you're interested. And down here is one poll. It's from just over a month ago. It's an internal poll from the McDermott campaign, but it's all we've got, and it shows Todd Young at 45% and McDermott at 42%, 13% undecided. They did not poll the Libertarian candidate for whatever reason, so that's going to try to make this race look closer than it is. Similar to J.D. Vance and Tim Ryan in Ohio, when Election Day finally rolls around, I don't think it's going to be all that close. But when you're the underdog, you've got to put something out to show that you're at least trying to take it seriously and actually win the race. If we try to compare with the polls back in 2016, in that race, Todd Young won with about 52% of the vote. Evan Bayh had about 42%. But if we look at these polls from September, even into October, a lot of them did show Evan Bayh with a lead. This race did not actually take final shape until the closing week or two. And SurveyMonkey, they put all their polls out at the end, and their final two polls got it really close, actually. They were only off by 1 point. So this goes to show that sometimes a race, it could shift in the final week, final 2 weeks, definitely in the final month. Sometimes they don't change, but you can never be too sure. And there is no market for this race on PredictIt. I don't think people are really looking to spend much money on a race that is close to a slam dunk for the Republicans. So in conclusion, Todd Young is heavily favored to win, likely by over 10 points. I would not expect it to be 20 points or anything like that. If everything goes right for McDermott, I would say he could maybe get it down to an 8-point loss. So that is a look at this U.S. Senate election in Indiana. Let me know down below. Are you following this race? What do you think the final margin will be? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy this channel, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.